Hi guys, today is some time right review for the AP essay. You guys just did a time right about sacrifice, and then towards the end of today you're going to write a brand new timed right. So I want to kind of go over some general tips and advice to help you before you do that. So this is the PowerPoint that will be located on Google Classroom for review. Everything that you need is actually on the PowerPoint, so all you got to do is click it. So first is we're going to do this mentor text. This is a mentor text I got from AP Lit Help, which is created by AP readers. One of the readers that's showcased on that video I actually worked with when I did my AP Read 2 years ago. So I'd like you to read through this list of tips. Take a few minutes and kind of read and see which tips you like, agree with, or new ideas or advice to help you. I'm going to highlight some of my favorites, and then we'll move on to your own essays and see how these tips relate. So I do think the biggest thing about all the essays is insight and originality. Really share insight, new ideas, thoughts, and your observations. It actually is a celebration of what you can read as an AP student. And bringing that into the mix is going to be really helpful. And the insights is going to help balance off the gerbil wheel effect, where you get stuck in an insight that is only one or it's too limited. The other thing I really like, this is new, the prompt itself is structured as complexity, and you are going to want to highlight that in your writing when you talk about the literature, especially like question 3. A lot of kids simplify the literature in question 3, and they don't acknowledge the complexity of lots of things, be it relationships, characterization, conflict, how the character grows or doesn't grow, the evolution of the story. So the prompt's going to be focused in complexity. It's not going to use that word choice, but they're going to be complex prompts because they have multiple levels of analysis. Like the sacrifice prompt, you have to talk sacrifice, but the complexity is you have to talk about how the sacrifice illustrates their value system. So acknowledge that and play that up. Some of these other tips we've kind of gone over a little bit already, so they're nice little reminders. The other thing is pushing word choice. You guys we all tend to get into a habit when we're rushed to just get ideas, just get the content out, like our personal content, but you want to go back and push your personal craft, and word choice is going to be one of the best bangs for your buck, and syntax, which is the tip right here. Pay attention. And then finally, moving towards the bottom, I thought this was really helpful. It's okay if you only score 6s on, the goal, you want to get at least a 5, because a 5 means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're fulfilling the prompt. But depending on how you do it, don't try to write these stellar 9 essays, because the reality is a nice balance of a 6 or a 7 essay in combination with your multiple choice score is going to get you to the 3 that you need to get your college credit. I really like AP is answer the prompt. That's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed in this piece, this sacrifice piece in a minute, is a lot of kids are not answering or utilizing the prompt, and I'll go over that in a minute. I do like this. Insight should be in the intro. Hit the person with it right from the get-go. Just insight, insight, insight. And know the clock. When kids get freaked out about the time, then they start to rush, and that rushness relates to some issues with organization and insight. So you do have to be quick, but don't hurry, because that's going to kind of ruin things. Moving on, today is how can you rock the time right. You're going to have 3 different prompts, and you will pick one and write it, and that will be what I will grade. You get to pick poetry, prose, or question 3. The prompts that I am using are actually from a secure test, and they would be the alternative prompts that are not released on College Board. So it'll be kind of nice to see prompts that maybe are different than what College Board has right now. Announcement-wise, work on Earnest and your lit circles. And then, like I said before, celebrations on the sacrifice prompt. There was a lot of good evidence. I think what's happening is the lit circle readings were really prevalent in what you picked and what you wrote about, so that's really awesome. I did see several students play with style, which is really nice. They just said things in a really nice way, and that's what elevated it from a 5 to a 6 or a 7. And then this is my area of concern. A lot of kids need to use the prompt. What's happening is you just start discussing your favorite things from the literature. You start going into what's called summary or plot discussion, and you don't mention the prompt until later in the essay. And that can be incredibly problematic because you got to remember who your reader is. Your reader is an AP reader. We have to read the essays and give you credit and reward you for what you do well. But the problem is when you don't answer the prompt, the reader is trying to figure out, is it intentional or do they not get it? And if they don't get it, that's when you get a 4. And so what happens is you need to use the prompt and you need to use the words in the prompt. So you should be using the words sacrifice and values a couple times, multiple times in the prompt. You need to keep bringing it back to the prompt. And then you need to watch all aspects of the prompt. A lot of kids talk sacrifice, but they did not get to the character value. So make sure you do that right from the start in your intro discussion. Next, we have a sample essay. It is attached here if you want to read it a little bit more easily, and it's also on the screen. So I want you to read through this because this essay is very nice. It comes back to the prompt multiple times. So if you notice right at the beginning, the general discussion is sacrifice and value. Like the person is bringing those two themes in because those are the two focus themes of the prompt. And then what happens is they move into right here, values, where they talk about how it shapes Atticus. So they're looking at the complex character of Atticus and his situation, which is really nice. And then it moves down here where you start to see values again. So every final chunk of the body paragraphs in this come back to the sacrifice and values part of the prompt, which is really nice. And the other thing that really elevates this essay to what I would call an 8, is it answers the prompt, it uses the prompts, and it brings in some just really powerful, interesting insight. The best insight is actually in this next paragraph where it talks about this is what makes Atticus's sacrifice so powerful. He's willing to help all people no matter what color. His sacrifice is so powerful because it doesn't stop people who are not like him, but extends. And then once again, this substantial sacrifice demonstrates, this is the big idea, the racism. That's the overall meaning of the book. And then there's a really nice conclusion, really nice punchy closing line that's really well done. So the thing to learn from the sample essay goes back to this issue right here. Use the prompt, keep bringing it back over and over again. It's a form of good repetition. And that repetition proves to the AP reader that you know what you're doing. That it's not because you don't know the prompt or you're dancing around it, it's because you've embraced it and you are utilizing it. And you don't want them to read your essay and say, well, do they really know what they're talking about with the prompt, or are they just kind of faking it? And then finally, you'll move into your essay today. I wish you the best of luck. Regardless if you do question 3 or the poem or the prose, these tips that I've talked about today are still relevant to all pieces. Use the prompt, get complex, understand there's a complex level and diversity to the prompt, use those direct plot moments and just keep bringing it back. Hopefully you guys do well, and when you give me a question or comment to grade, I will make sure I give you feedback. So good luck, and that's the review of the time essays.